Hello and welcome to the Pots and Trowels podcast with me, Martin, Jill and Sean.
Hi.
And coming up on this episode, we're going to have a chat to two of the presenters from BBC Beechgrove Garden up there in Scotland, and we're going to find out a little bit about George and Carole's private garden.
The garden behind the gardener.
Exactly,
Ooh,
yes.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
We should say thanks to our sponsors, first of all, to Plant Grow, who are based in lovely Norfolk.
Wow.
They've had a fantastic summer there. And they get very busy turning the waste from making green electricity into a range of really good things for our garden. So compost, mulches, topsoil and plant feed.
It is
Good
lovely
stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Coming up later on, we've also got some questions. We've got a question from a listener about a box hedge and what to do about it and maybe what to replace it with. So some options there.
Yeah. And just a reminder that we do this podcast now on a weekly basis. We had a little break in August. We're back now for season 3. So we're going to be with you right the way through on a weekly basis, all the way through until next July. And we cover all things gardening. We chat to people every week. We've got special guests, questions, jobs
We
for
answer
the
your
garden.
questions. Drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com. If you want to ask a question, drop us an email. Tell us where you are and send photos if possible. That would be great.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So always something happening. But thank you for being with us. We're going to go across to George and Carole now and find out a little bit about them. George, Carole, lovely to catch up with you both and have a chat. We don't see each other that often, but when we do, I always feel that we just pick up where we left off last time. And I'm sure listeners will both know you both, of course, from the Beechgrove Garden, that you've both been doing a number of years. Carole, although you're much younger than George, you've been doing it longer.
I mean, I'm only 21, but how does that work out when I've actually been in front of camera for 40? The programme is on its 48th series, so it started in 1978. And it started with the BBC studios in Aberdeen. And there was a producer there saying, well, actually, look, if we can grow something in Aberdeen, we can grow it in the whole of Scotland. And it seems to have been really successful. And obviously it started with Jim McCall and George Barron. And then, well, I came in about sort of, was it 6 years later or eight years later? But also I was the gardener behind the scenes, so I kind of know how both things work. And then, of course, George joined us.
Yeah, and then, that's when it all got really exciting.
Well, that's when it all went downhill, wasn't it? But yeah, I joined in, 2015? Oh, no, 2005. 2005 I joined. And I had just recently retired from the Botanics. I'd worked at Edinburgh Botanics for 38 years. And you know what it's like when you retire and you're not sure what you want to do. You answer every phone call with, oh yeah, I'll do that. So I got involved, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done, because Beachgrove is a family. It's not, there's nobody is special. Nobody is special on the programme.
I get that feeling. Yes, there's not one lead presenter. You are all sort of equal, aren't you, in there? And was it a chance phone call? Was it advertised, or did you just get a phone call saying, George, we want you?
No. What had happened was that there was the Glasgow Garden Festival, and there was a show in Strathclyde Park as well. And I coordinated a number of Scottish colleges to produce a stand, which was a big floral display. And I was interviewed by Jim McCall. And then, so that was almost like a screen test, as it were. And they thought, oh, that's okay. But I was also my usual sort of cheeky self with the ladies who were the researchers behind the scenes, and got on very well. But I never thought any more about that. And then it wasn't until they found I was retiring, and by which time Jim McCall had been a trustee of the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh. And so it's all a network, Martin. The whole thing is a network. It's who you know.
Yeah.
Which sounds terrible. It's not a boy, but it's not a club.
No, but you've got to have the contacts out there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So that was how I joined. And I remember walking across the big display hall at the Gardening Scotland that was on the go then, talking to Gwyneth, who was the producer. And she said, we'd like you to join us, George, but we are a big family, And that's all she needed to say, because I knew that I wasn't to come in and spoil it.
Right, yes. There was a hidden message there.
There was,
exactly.
yeah.
So when you started as the gardener, so you'd be doing all the back of house preparations and maintaining the gardens, Carole. Did you ever think one day you would be a presenter? You know, is that something you wanted to do?
No, it wasn't. So, it's quite interesting that when we were at the Southport Flower Show and Nick Bailey, I think it was something that he'd always wanted to do, a gardener's world. But I mean, no, I'm a gardener first and foremost. I think I'm so lucky that I'm in something that to me is a hobby as well as a career. So when I was approached, and I think it was a little bit like George, because actually it was the head of television at the time, Jim Hunter. He came round the garden, and at the time I was layering sweet peas. And I mean, sweet peas I love. But he came up to me and said, well, Carole, what are you doing? And so I was obviously describing to him what I was doing. I didn't realise. And then when I was asked, okay, there's a little bit of like, oh, do I really want to do this? And also following male presenters. Sorry, I maybe I shouldn't say that now, but I probably was one of the first female gardening presenters. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? If it works, it works. I can always be a gardener, and well, we're still here, and it's
40
great
years
working
later.
with George.
Yeah, well, yes, you do. You two bounce off each other. I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with you both on a number of occasions, and you do just bounce off each other. And it's a hugely popular programme, not only in Scotland but in lots, especially the north of England. I think probably more people watch you in the north of England than they do other programmes that are available on the BBC, because I think the climate's more apt to what you've got.
We really marry into what the climate is like. So, and within Scotland, we've got a fantastic range of climate. If you think of Logan Botanic Garden down in the southwest, which it's tropical almost, it's subtropical. It grows in these fantastic plants in the southern hemisphere. Then you go to the west coast and you've got Benmore, which has this western rainforest from Northwest America type thing, and plants grow well there. And then you go to the middle of the country where you've got Doic Botanic Garden, and that's almost like a continental climate. Then you come to the east where it's so dry, and so you've got these 4 different areas, and it just allows us to grow such a wide variety of plants in Scotland. That's just one example, but within Botanic Gardens, but everywhere else. There are little microclimates where you can grow things that other people can't grow.
Yeah, exactly. And Scotland is big, isn't it? You don't realise how big Scotland is. So what we're going to do is take a little break. Then I'm going to ask you both about your gardens. Just tell us a little bit about your gardens.
Well, coming up later, we've got that question about box. We've also got a question about a eucalyptus tree to ask Martin. But Scotland, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but it definitely has some variety, doesn't it?
Well, it does. But having said that, I've been quite a few times used to take gardening holidays, and I can't really remember having bad weather when we did the gardening holidays in May and September. But I know you've had some pretty horrific weather up there, haven't you?
Maybe not horrific, but certainly a variety. Yeah, definitely.
I do, actually. It's just come back to me in a flash. Last year, in August, I was at Logan Gardens, which George mentions. It's a botanic garden right on the west coast, the one that is almost subtropical.
I guess the Gulf Stream, isn't
and
it?
it was like a monsoon.
Stream.
So I take that back. It was like a monsoon. It really was.
Well, me and my brother went up there to try skiing or snowboarding in the Scottish mountains, and it was absolutely beautiful. A mixture of conditions, but it felt like, never mind 4 seasons in one day. I took a photograph at the top of one of the mountains and it was a panoramic, so I was moving across, and it started out with blue sky, and as I got to the middle it was kind of cloudy and rainy, and then I got to the end it was hails. It was 4 seasons in one photograph.
There you go.
So and skiing through rain when it's hitting you in the face, it wasn't not the most
but
pleasant.
it is a beautiful country, isn't it?
Absolutely
I just
amazing.
love the landscape and the scenery up there.
Stunning.
So different wherever you go. So yes. And obviously that's the great thing I think about Beachgrove, is because it's, as they mentioned, it's if you film it and can grow it in Aberdeen, you can probably grow it anywhere in Scotland and the north of England.
Yeah,
it covers all bases. So yeah.
Shall we have these questions then?
Yeah, let's do some questions.
All right. Do you want to start?
Shall I start with
go for it.
Nick in Nottingham? It's a sorry tale, I'm afraid.
Dear.
Yeah. So Nick in Nottingham
got a tissue.
has got some box hedging, which originally would have looked beautiful all around the edges of the house, just to sort of soften the house a little bit. it, and it's now 2 foot high, but it's really not good. It's not looking good. It's gone completely brown and looks very dead.
Okay.
She's had a sort of rummage and can't actually see anything creepy crawly in it. So she thinks that it's probably had it and there's nothing to do. What's a really good replacement for
Right,
it?
okay. Well, let's try and figure out what it is for a start. So, I mean, the two main problems, and you've had one of them on your box
yeah.
in the past, is box blight, which is a fungal disease. I haven't seen much of that this year because you often get that when we get, warm weather, but then we get high humidity or rain on that soft new growth, and that spreads the disease and it burns patches of it off. It goes a very, very pale colour, almost like a sort of the colour of a cornfield in patches, and we'll often recover from that. The other one is the box moth caterpillar, which is gradually spreading north, and it's certainly in this part of the country, up in Yorkshire as well now, so it's moving north. So watch it, George and Carole, it's probably on the way to Scotland. So that one is a moth that lays its egg on the box, the caterpillars hatch and they just devour it. Now, if it is that, you basically lose all the leaves. So if the leaves are still on there but they've gone brown, it eliminates, hopefully, the box moth caterpillar. But I'm also wondering this year, I've seen some that's looking pretty poor because of the hot, dry weather. And I think this is planted close to the house, isn't
Very
it? So
close,
I'm just
yeah,
wondering
I've
if it's
seen.
a south facing, it's got the sun, the reflection of the heat, if it's just literally dried out at the roots. So I'd be tempted to maybe just I'd give it a really, really good soaking if it were mine, and I'd just scratch the bark lower down, not the top little bits, but go further down to where the stems are a bit thicker. Give it a bit of a scratch, and if it is green, then I'd be
There's hope.
tempted yes, there's hope. I'd be tempted to give it a good haircut into the older wood, because box will grow from old wood. We were visiting a garden a few weeks ago called Harloxton Manor in Lincolnshire, and they've got some hedges that looks like they'd dried out, and there was all green shoots coming from the base. So it may be savable. But if you don't want to do that and you want to go down another route, a few alternatives. There's a little small-leafed holly. It's not got a prickly leaf. It's a smooth, oval, evergreen leaf called Ilex crenata. There's a little euonymus. We always think of the sort of ground cover ones, but there's some upright ones. There's one with a small leaf called euonymus green spire, or yew makes a really good hedge, and you can keep it quite small and clip it, and that one will fare fairly well in dry weather as well. So, but I would, if it were me, I would see if that is savable first before you rip it out.
And if it is savable, if there's a bit of life in there, when would you cut it down?
I would do it now.
close?
I think,
Right.
it's only, middle of September. The ground's warm. If you can get some moisture there, you might find you get a flush of 2, 3, 4 inches of growth before we get into winter.
Okay.
And it's probably worth giving that a try even
yeah.
before you decide what
Yes,
you're going to do
Exactly,
long
yeah.
term.
It's
Isn't
worth doing that, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Good luck with that. Keep us posted, Nick. We'd like to know how it gets on.
Good stuff. Well, okay, I've got a question here from Marie Claire up in Lancashire. She has a eucalyptus. I've shown Martin the photo already, and it's got multiple stems. And my guess, as a novice, was that maybe they've left it a bit too late for this. But it's kind of a main trunk, and then there are 3 large trunks around it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hopefully you'll see it now. What should they do with that? Is that something that they should cut down or leave, because it has to be strapped up because all these stems are quite long? And
Yes, I mean, it looks like Eucalyptus gunnii. It's quite a vigorous tree. They grow to be quite big, fast growing as well, and you often buy them as a single stem, sometimes multi-stem. This one, as you say, has got the main trunk, and then it's got 2 or 3 slightly thinner, but I think, like you, it's a bit late to take them out now. Looking at the tree, I think if you were to take them out, and they look probably almost the thickness of my wrist, if you take them out, they're probably 20 feet tall. They will add to quite a lot of the canopy of the tree, and I think if you take them out, what's left on that main trunk is probably going to be a little bit sparse. So I would just live with it as a multi-stem tree. They probably don't even need tying together. They probably support themselves, to be fair. But bear in mind, it will get bigger. And I see it's in like a raised bed, but I think the raised bed hasn't got a base in it, so the roots will go down and anchor it.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
They basically I think they said they strapped them because they were leaning over the edge of the
Okay,
bed.
fine. I mean, you can
And
leave
so-
them strapped, but it might be now they've been in that position for a few years, they won't lean. It's only when they're young and floppy. Ideally, if you want a single one, you should take any side branches, those sort of growths off when they're young,
Yeah.
before they get that size.
Okay, good stuff. Well, look, if you've got a question for Martin or any of the team, although my knowledge is probably not one to question with gardening questions, drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com. Tell us where you are, and obviously do send us some photographs, and we'll try and get that answered for you.
I can help with gluts of fruit and veg. You know,
Oh,
we've got it all
yes.
coming out of the garden, the veg garden at the moment, haven't we?
Yes.
The
Yeah, we
beetroot,
have.
the apples.
Yes,
We're
well,
going to talk
yeah.
about that later, aren't
Well,
we, maybe?
we are, exactly,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, we've just got a few here as well, you see, just right on cue.
You show off.
Fantastic,
Yes.
fantastic. Well, shall we go back and hear a bit more about the gardens behind the gardeners of Beechgrove?
Yes, let's. Carole, then, outside of Beechgrove Garden, what is your garden like?
Okay, well, 30 years ago, I went to this place and I didn't fall in love with the house, but I definitely fell in love with the site, and it was something that I'd always dreamed of. It's a big site, it's about 8 acres, but I'd always wanted water. So actually I do have, I'll call it a burn rather than a river. It's kind of a tributary of the River Ison. So water to me is very important. I've got quite a few trees, so there's a little bit of woodland. It has to be pretty wild as well. So, nearer the house, it's more maintained. And then the further afield you get, obviously it gets wilder and wilder. I do have about a 4-acre field as well. And I wouldn't be without my ride-on mulching mower. So when I describe that, it's the fact that I can get on that. I'm not collecting the grass, and it has a fantastic little turning circle. So, in other words, I haven't got the square lawns. It's very informal.
Yeah.
I do have a polytunnel, but again, I have to be a little bit practical just because of the size. And, I am looking after it. So there's a lot of work. I don't have help.
I was just going to say, how many gardens have you got?
Well, I say I don't have help. My partner will do maybe a little bit, but he's not a gardener at all. So, kind of I'm in charge and I can do what I want. But so the polytunnel, I'm a bit practical there. So I grow things like asparagus, which is a perennial crop. I've got strawberries. I've got a few herbs. But I don't do a lot of pots and things like that. For me, that's kind of high maintenance.
And whereabout, you don't have to tell us exactly, what part of Scotland are you in? Is it in a very cold area in winter?
I live in a frost pocket.
Right, okay.
It's sunny Joppa for George, but I'm a frost pocket because, when you've got water, you're kind of in a valley, aren't you? And so very sheltered, and I love that because I don't particularly like the wind. With the wind, you can see the plants being damaged. So I love that shelter, but you need the thermals in the winter.
Oh, right, okay, so it is a cold one. So, George, I see on your Facebook feed, sunny Joppa.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, where is Joppa?
Well, Joppa is a suburb of Edinburgh. It's on the east side of Edinburgh, and it's right next to the coast. So it benefits from the Firth of Forth. So the temperature is kept pretty even with very few snow days, very little frost, and that's quite good for growing plants. It's called Sunny Joppa on my Facebook page because during COVID, we were sent a camera by our director and told, go and film yourselves. And Jill hates cameras. Doesn't like her photograph taken or anything. So we decided that she would do the filming, right? Almost like a punishment. So she did the filming. But we had the luxury, whereas at Beechgrove Garden, we only film on a Tuesday, every Tuesday, that's it. You just film on a Tuesday, rain, hail, shine, whatever. We could do it on a sunny day. So every time they came to me, I would say, welcome to Sunny Joppa, whether it was at my allotment or whether it was at my house. Now, my house is a 1938 suburban bungalow. So it has about, I suppose it's roughly a quarter of an acre. When I went into it, it had a very tall, it was an evergreen hedge on the south side, which was blocking out the light. So that went to the dump in the car boot. You know how it's funny whenever people take over a garden first, they act like vandals and it gets wiped out. Well, that was what happened to that hedge. And then what happened after that was I was going abroad, and I sat on the airplane with a piece of paper, and I worked out what I was going to grow in the front, on the east side, on the west side, and on the south side. I worked it all out, and I made it into zones, different zones. And one was Japan, another one was going to be a woodland garden. Then I had a herbaceous border, and eventually I had stuff which was Chilean and Australian. Because the soil is dry, it's a raised beach. That is wonderful for Southern Hemisphere plants because the water drains away, the necks of the plants are kept dry, and it's astonishing what you can grow.
And I presume you don't have the same problems with frost that Carole has where she is.
No, not the same problems at all. I can have leaves on things well into December, which as a boy I can never remember happening. You know, it's quite strange how this climate change has crept up on us, but no, it's a good place.
Yeah, well, I know you're posting fascinating and unusual plants, which of course is your botanical garden background that comes through. So, do you do anything on social media, Carole?
Very little.
Yeah, well, you like to get away.
Yeah.
No, of course you can. No.
Yeah. No, I suppose being in front of camera, fantastic. It's lovely, but also it's so nice, I think, to have your own garden where you can just do what you want to do and the cameras aren't there, So I like a bit of both. I'm sure George is the same. It's lovely to be sociable, but also for me, gardening is so therapeutic, isn't it? Martin, you must know as well. You spend a day in the garden, the hours just go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it is just a way to switch off and wind down and forget about everything else, isn't it? Yeah.
And gardeners live longer.
I hope so.
Well, they do. No, because of our diet, because of what we grow, because of the exercise we have, we're using different muscles all the time, using our brains. Yeah.
George, what do you mean diet? I love chocolate, and I don't grow that.
A little bit of what
That's a challenge.
Exactly. A little bit of that doesn't hurt. You've got to have that, haven't you, to counteract all the vegetables. Yeah.
Well, you see, because we're a growing family with 3 youngsters, then I put my name down for an allotment, and I have an allotment, and that takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
And Jill now, who makes, like your Jill, she does a lot of the jam making in particular. I do a lot of the cooking in the house, but Jill does the jam, and raspberries, strawberries, we've got plums, we've got black currants, we've got red currants, we've got all.
But I'm going to say George is a very good cook, because there were a few years ago, actually, we did a feature, I came down to your place, didn't I? And we were doing some trials on your allotment. And wow, we used to have some lovely lunches. And, George was the cook, so many talents.
I might head up to Edinburgh and search him out in sunny Joppa and, pop in for lunch one day.
He likes fishing as well.
Does
You'd be most welcome.
Yeah, well, that's it, yes. Yeah. Lovely. We could talk all day. We could, couldn't we? But I've got to let you disappear. And this podcast can't be any more than 30 minutes long, otherwise I'll get told off by Sean. So it's been great to catch up with you again, and hopefully we'll all meet up again soon.
I hope so. Thank you.
I've got to pick up on this because you mentioned me saying keep it down to 30 minutes. They can be on as long as they want. They're brilliant.
Well, they can, yes. So yeah.
I'd rather more of them than me talking. I'm sure the listeners
we will no doubt get George and Carole back on again another time, and we can do an extended version. Excellent. What would be lovely would be to go to Scotland and see them up there, wouldn't it?
Pots and Trowels on tour. We can do that.
Yes. That's what we should be doing.
Okay.
So, yes.
I should just point out that the Jill that George refers to is George's wife, Jill.
Yes.
Not me.
George's
obviously.
wife, Jill, not you,
Yes.
Jill. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. But there's a commonality there, though, because George was mentioning how Jill took to the camera work during COVID.
Yeah.
Well, that's literally what we did with Pots and Trowels.
Yeah.
Jill here took to the camera to film Martin for the Pots and Trowels videos.
Yes, because up until then you used to do all the filming, didn't you? That is, and then
which actually reminds me of another thing George said about filming on blue skies and sunny weather, because the Pots and Trowels almost always had sunny weather, because I was coming up on sunny days to film more than one in
Yeah.
I was like, oh, why is it always sunny in North Yorkshire where we used to film?
Exactly, yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
It was lovely to catch up with all three of them. It's the first time we'd met Jill as well, but I've worked with George and Carole a few times when I used to work at the Gardening Scotland show in Edinburgh, and I used to be invited on to their Q&A panel, and I was in awe, when I was invited on. I was working there on behalf of the RHS, and I got the call, would I go on to the Q&A panel? And we've worked together ever since. And they are, what you see is what you get. They are gardeners through and through, and that is what really matters to them.
I think that's quite an important trait, particularly in this day and age of what we see online and on TV, where things are all coiffured and curated within an inch of its life, like us, obviously.
Just make it up as we go along, type of thing.
Shh, don't tell them.
But they're both speaking from experience, and that's what it should be. I think you shouldn't talk on a subject if you don't really know much about it, and they obviously know their subject inside out.
But fascinating to hear about their own gardens as well, because those very different. George has really sort of planned his out and thought about the different areas, and that, as you said on the interview, is with his background in botanic gardens. Sort of having all those different areas. Whereas Carole just has these rolling acres, doesn't she? And it just sounds fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
yes, no, we will catch up with them again. And obviously, even though we're in England, we can still get Beachgrove on the television here, so it is available in the UK if you've never watched it before.
When does it go out on the television?
Well, it goes out at a different time to Scotland, I think. I'd have to check, to
Okay.
be fair. I would need to check.
It's probably on iPlayer, isn't it? The BBC.
Everything is on
so.
iPlayer, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the ones I've seen, and there's often quite a lot on Facebook. They're quite active on Facebook as well. Good, right. So, do you want some jobs?
Yeah, come
Better
on.
had.
Okay, well, one of them is about a glut, well, two gluts we've got at the moment. Apples, these are the Bramley apples, and I know we were talking about Bramleys last year. Pauline in New York had a
Last
problem
week
with us.
even, but yes.
Did I say
we
last
probably
year?
did it last year as well. But,
Did we? Yeah, last
bet we
week.
did.
How time flies on the Pots and Trowels podcast. Yes, it was last week we were talking about Pauline in New York. Hers had all fallen off.
Yeah.
The reason I mentioned it, Bramleys, we wouldn't normally be picking them at this time of the year. They're normally October, but I think because of the hot, dry summer that we've had this year, they are falling prematurely. And somebody the other day said to me, I don't think mine's a Bramley because it's got red on it. Well, these are both off the same tree. They are Bramleys.
for people who are only listening, Martin is holding two apples.
Yes.
One is red and one is green. It's
Exactly.
like Snow White or something.
That's right. And when a Bramley is in the sun and you leave it on the tree long enough to ripen, it will get this lovely sort of reddish, pinkish stripes. And they get quite red, some of them do. When we're used to buying them from a supermarket, and this one is on
always green,
the shady
aren't they?
side of the tree, so it hasn't gone red, they're always green because they always pick them before they're
When you
ripe.
say shady away from the sun rather than a slightly dodgy part.
Oh,
of the garden.
absolutely, yes.
Well,
the
there's one
dodgy
of
part.
those as well.
So we've got loads of apples, but also we've now got a glut of that Jill has got to work her magic with butternut squash.
Oh,
Because I counted them. We grow those actually in a neighbour's garden because they take up quite a bit of space. And I think there's about 27 butternut squash. So I just think any recipes you could think of for next week, maybe
I'm
butternut
sure we
squashes.
can, but they store
really
fairly well as
well.
well, don't they? So
Yeah.
definitely there'll be lots of soup in the equation,
Absolutely.
risottos.
As will
Yeah.
these Bramleys. If you keep them nice and cool, or even if you've got room to put some in your fridge, you can keep them for weeks and weeks, even months that way. So yes,
But that's it. This, because you said this one had fallen off the tree. There are a few bruises
There
on
are.
that already on the apple. So we need to get
yeah,
that
well,
one
just cut them
processed
off. Yeah.
sooner.
I feel lots of apple crumble coming on
think
over
you
the
might be
next 6
right.
months. Yes, and of course it's now bulb planting time, so all the garden centres have got all the bulbs in. All the daffodils and the narcissus, tulips, hyacinths, crocus. So get them, even if you're not ready to plant them, get them, put them in the garden when the ground's probably a little bit softer and got some moisture in it. But when you do buy them, make sure you keep them where they can breathe, so never in a polythene bag, and somewhere as cool as you can.
Okay.
So, and then try and get them in really by the end of October, so you've got plenty of time to get them in. Although tulips, we often wait a little bit longer and wait till the ground is cooling down and do that in November. But it's a good time to get them. Why? There's a good choice.
If you're going to do some daffodils in pots,
do them now.
Now would
They're
be
absolutely
okay.
fine. You could plant your daffodils now, but our ground at the minute is still so hard and dry. We'd struggle to sort of.
Yes.
There's a bit of moisture in the top, but when you dig down 3 or 4 inches, it's still quite dry. So I like there to be a bit of natural moisture in the ground.
Is it bulb lasagna time of year then?
It is bulb lasagna time of the year. That's
And
right.
if you're
Sean.
wondering what I mean by that, we have a video online where you can go and see how Martin makes a bulb lasagna, which grows all sorts of different coloured flowers at different times
Yeah,
of the year.
exactly. And then the other thing is, people often at this time of the year give up on hanging baskets and summer containers with all those lovely busy lizzies and begonias and trailing petunias in. But if you just really deadhead them, probably pinch them back a little bit, trim them if they're getting a bit leggy, give them a good water and a really good feed of a high potash fertiliser, a tomato feed, do that on a weekly basis, you'll be surprised. Now it's cooling down, they'll put on a new spurt of growth and often continue to flower right the way through into October. So you can extend the life. Don't think they've all gone over. There's a bit more life in them yet.
But if you wanted to do a winter hanging basket with pansies and
I wouldn't do it
violas,
yet.
No.
No, it's too
So
early.
keep that
Yes,
one,
yeah.
keep
Enjoy
the summer
what
one
we've
going
got.
a bit longer.
You know, and Scotland. When we talk about Scotland, we've been up often at the end of September, and very often the bedding is at its best there because they've had a cooler summer.
Yeah.
So don't give up on it yet. We've got another month's worth of that lovely colour before we can start thinking about the autumn containers. So there you go. Keep you busy for a bit,
Yeah,
Sean.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll get my secateurs out.
Exactly. Yes.
Back in the garden. Absolutely. Well, I think we're probably running out of time. I mean,
We are.
apparently I'm the keeper of time.
You are. Yeah. Have we had 30 minutes yet? I think we've gone over.
Slightly over,
Yeah,
but I
okay.
don't think that's a problem. Don't, let us know. Leave us a review if you think it's a problem. Let us know. If hopefully you won't think it's a problem.
Yeah.
And you'll give us 5 stars. But yeah.
Exactly. And remember, if you have got any questions that you would like answering, then send them in to us by email, info@potsandtrowels.com, and we will answer them in one of the future episodes.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for listening.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Watch the videos on YouTube or Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter or X, and subscribe to the podcast and never miss a thing. For more information, go to potsandtrowels.com.